but yeah, just he takes his commands in Psalm 1.
Oh, I love it. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to Fran and Friends. Today, I always say that I have a special guest. And you know what? They're just going to keep being special. With that said, I have the privilege to have a conversation. This is business, but then this is also family. So my cousin John, he's going to share a little bit about his background, and then we'll go into today's topic, which is failing successfully. So you want to just your background, however you want to?
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for that. Really appreciate being here. And oh my gosh, it's been a journey for both of us. So but anyhow, so I'm Taliaoa John Loau. Taliaoa is my Samoan Matai name Talo Famalo, so for Maua for those Samoans who are tuning in, and then John Loau. So feel free to call me John. As you can tell by my accent, it's a bit of a mixed one in New Zealand, a bit long. But I'm currently based in Auckland, New Zealand at the moment, and former American anyhow, living in the U.S. for many years. So I guess the short story is, growing up in the U.S. from a business end, I think my first actual entrepreneurial stab at trying to generate money was being a recycler.
Oh my God. Why can't I have this picture of you with the bag? And Uncle at the park at Victoria Park after our
Yep. That was the first gig. And I tell you, we used to wait for the bus, the school bus, the yellow bus to pick us up to go to school. And it was just down the road. It was in Torrance at the time. It was just down the road from the recycling center. And I just noticed these homeless guys would be pushing their shopping cart into the place and then coming out all very happy. And one day I asked, what are you doing? They said, we take our stuff in and then they give us money. At that point, I just realized, because poverty was very real for us growing up in a overcrowded home, as we did. Just realized that, and then being the oldest son, we've got to do something. And being Samoan, it's just like, hey, this is why we're here. Being the immigrant family from New Zealand, this is why you come to the United States, right? Is to live the American dream, and at least to start the opportunity to try to fight for something. So that was probably my first kind of real stab at entrepreneurship. Was being a recycler, collecting cans, bottles, pushing a shopping cart just like everyone else. A bit embarrassing because all your friends are like, what are you doing? It's like trying to make money. Right. So I can go to Payless shoe store when Payless was not cool, but now it's very cool to go there. But that was the kind of first stab at it. I think I was a paper boy for a bit, and then the watering the lawns was one of the other ones, which was great. And I was probably making more money than my dad was at the time. And this is probably the early 90s. I was making more money than my dad was. God bless him. He was making, $2 an hour, minimum wage back then, working at 100% car wash there in Carson, California, where he was working for tips. And I was making more money than he was making in a day doing that stuff. So that's where the spark of kind of, hey, this is possible. Like, this is the land of milk and honey. It just takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of hard work. And it takes a lot of humbling to probably go through that. And I think that's probably what one of the early lessons I learned very, very early on. So, fast forward, many years later, it started a security company, then I went to military school, a couple of them, sold them to government, ended up in politics while I was there on council. And then been here in New Zealand since 2011 and almost had to really restart from the get-go. Arrived in New Zealand like, ta-da, I'm here. And they're like, oh, stink, who's this guy? And it was just like, I was like, hey, let's do some stuff. They're like, no, do it yourself. So it was a really interesting experience to have to restart here in New Zealand. But, those lessons that I had learned very early on in the United States, I just carried them over here and started a few businesses and done really well. And then now on a few other boards and, did the political space for a little bit now. And then, currently I'm, heading one of the largest tertiary institutions in the region as one of their campus directors and managers. So, that's kind of the short story.
That's like so much. I'm trying to figure out where we should break this down.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier coming from poverty and, we lived right next door to each other.
Yeah. Literally.
Literally, like a few steps, we walk over here. And,
Yeah,
at that time, I really didn't grasp the idea of what it was. I knew we were broke, but I didn't know to what extreme. So from there, like, I know you had mentioned that, seeing dad work at the car wash and you already saw that you were making more money than him. What were some of those catalysts to, like, what created the mindset to what you have today from where you started?
Yeah, I think one of the main things for me was it wasn't so much like I made more money than dad. For me, it was just the relief that it brought
Mm,
mom and dad. And that relief really, uh, really for mom and dad to be empowered to do the things that we wanted as kids, right? Like you imagine, like we wanted to go to Sizzler. And it was just like, I mean, when you're 8 and you get to go to a buffet that's just like everything's laid out versus when we were just eating water bread pancakes, that was just like, how do we get from point A to point B? And so I felt actually really proud at the fact that I was able to do that. But and I don't know if anyone else does it, but we as Samoans, the money doesn't belong to us, it belongs to mom and dad anyway. And
right.
so being able to accomplish that and to achieve that and then being able to give it to them, I would see the relief on, just in their eyes. It's like, okay, cool. We can buy them shoes now. We can do this and we can go and do that. If they gave me $1, which they normally did, which was a lot of money back then, I was bowling. I was just like, yo, we're going to go to the shop and go get some 25-cent chips. You know what I mean? I was just, that was my kind of first interaction in terms of spending. But I think what the biggest catalyst for me was seeing the relief in their eyes and then being able to see brothers and sisters benefit from from that work. Because for me, I was just a kid, just having fun.
Mhm.
I was out there competing with the homeless guys. Like they were like, man, this guy's taking our recyclables. I'm like, yo. But one of the interesting things that I found that, being young and being in that space, people took pity on me. And I realized that very quickly. And when people asked if there's anything I can do to help you, just let me know. I was, when you're young, you're fearless. So you don't really kind of filter the things you say. So I used to
Mhm.
tell people if I didn't have to dig through the rubbish bin, the trash can, then this would make my life easier. So then they ended up collecting their recyclables and leaving them for me and bagging them. And so I almost just had like the system and network where it was just like, you're on Tuesday, you're on Wednesday, you're on Thursday. And it just became more efficient. And
Wow.
the whole thing that was driving me at the time was the more I can do, the more money I can now present mom and dad, and the more they can do for us.
Yeah.
Our culture as Samoans is that it's about the extended connections, right? And
Mhm.
so for me, it was just like, well, this doesn't belong to me; it belongs to mom and dad, so that then they can come back and do what we want to do. It got to a point where dad was out there with us too, and mom, you know. Yeah, because they were like, this dude's on something. He's onto it, and they found out accidentally. They weren't very happy when they found out because they thought I was out playing with my brothers and sisters, and I don't know what was going on in their head.
Mhm.
But there was a lot of us at the time that they were probably just thinking like cans and bottles just magically appeared in the backyard or whatever. So it was when I think I was one of the rare times I was sick as a kid and didn't show up to do my recycling route for a week.
Mhm.
And then a few families found out where I was, and they came knocking on the door.
And
And of
brought you
course,
hands.
yeah, and food, because they were like, my parents were like, why are these Palangi people knocking on the door looking for you? And they were like, oh, what's the matter? I said, oh, I'm sick. And so I had to explain to my parents because I was also very conscious that, we come from a culture of very proud people,
Yeah.
especially adults. And so they didn't, I take it that they didn't really think that they brought us all the way to the United States from New Zealand uh, just to have me turn around at the age of 8, 9 years old to do what I had to do to help push them along. So that, there was a bit of resistance from them, but they realized pretty quickly that, oh, this is really strange. Have you not been doing your homework and out playing with your friends? I was like, well, yeah, I did the homework, but like, what am I going to do? Like I don't want to kick a ball down the road. I just realized the homeless guy over there was happy making money. So do I need to wait? So
Right.
so it worked out really well. And I think one of the biggest things that I found out really quickly in that space of 8, 9 years old was people are willing to help if you're willing to tell them what you need. If you think about what you need, it's probably the simplest things. And And if you don't seek solutions to make your life more productive and efficient, then you can get worn down. So I had lots of fun just going to houses now instead of going to bins. And I think my biggest partnership was the when we were living in Torrance was it was the Lucky's bar. It was a Irish pub
Okay.
that was right behind us, because and I would hear we would hear all the the going ons that go on, and then it would finish. I would at night would hop over the fence because it literally was behind us, because I would hear all the bottles breaking and things like that being in the cans and everything. I thought, oh, maybe I should go and see if they've got stuff for me.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they had a whole bin dedicated to recyclables, which is part of their business plan. But I was like, that's part of my business plan. Thank you very much for your donation. So, and again, mom and dad found out the hard way when they went to go check on us at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and they're counting their kids. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hey, somebody's missing. Somebody's missing. And I was coming through the window, and they're like, what are you doing? So, obviously got smacked around a little bit for doing that, but because it probably didn't sound well when I was like, I was at the bar.
No, not at that age.
And they're like, wow, what are you doing there? But yeah, they realized pretty quickly then that that's what I was doing. And again, mom and dad just saw the sense of it. So it ended up pulling them together. And I was quite proud. And for me, when we were young, we weren't really conscious or paid too much attention to what people thought.
Yeah.
Which when we progress and we get older, we tend to a lot these days. And with the proliferation of technology, we really think a bit too hard about what people think, and it could stunt our ability to grow, which is which is one of those things. So when I'm out talking, I'm doing business talks, and people are going, how did you become successful? And I just hear the same things of how people are just failing at success because they're doing those things like, do you know what you need? Well, this is what I want. Like, that's not what I ask you. So you clearly don't know what you need. So yeah, keep doing that, and you're gonna fail successfully. Do you know how to ask for what you need? And many people don't know how to ask because of all sorts of other reasons. I'm too embarrassed. I don't know how. I don't know who. Well, you're just sitting there in the corner for years now, and you don't know how to ask. Go find out. Go talk to someone. Or you're attending a business talk that I'm speaking at for the third time. Like, should I just give you my bank account and you just put money in it? Like, because you're not asking questions. You're not learning. So keep failing at success, because those are the things that people do. Because as we get older, we kind of forget that. So I like to tell people all the time, like, from an entrepreneur standpoint, you just have to go hard, and you have to go hard with almost the naivety of a child. That whole just the world is your oyster, and if that didn't work, I'm going to try that. And if this doesn't work, I'm going to try that. We tend to lose that as we get older because we're conscious, because what's this person going to say, or we think we've taken on life experiences that then inform our decision making that says, well, that's not going to work. Why would it work if I did it? Like, why would it not work if you didn't try? And if you're not going to work as aggressively as you originally were going to when the idea first sparked, everyone just kind of goes, oh yes, I want to do that. But for me as a kid, I always talk about those times when I was out there, being the recycler, doing the newspaper route, and then watering the lawns, and all three of those have some very common themes. And it was just doing things outside of my normal structured time. It's uncomfortable, but we have to do it because hard work is hard until you figure out how to make it easy. And the easiest way I made it to hard work easy was basically just be happy with what you're doing. At the end of it, what I mean? I really enjoyed that the money I gave mom and dad gave them empowered them to take us to Payless so that we could buy the shoes that we needed. You know what I mean? And it just, that really just gave me lots of joy. And my sisters and brothers, it's odd because Tupe is here now. She just arrived here 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
One of the twins arrived here yesterday.
Oh, and I thought it was in Vegas.
Yeah, well, they're all arriving here because Tupa's daughter's 21st is going to be held here in New Zealand.
Okay.
And so the whole clan's flying basically here, and so we all kind of sit and chat and talk about those days. Like, you remember when? Like, yep. I said, yep. Those are cool days. But we also think about the probably the hard parts of it, like having to get up at 5 a.m. to water all the lawns. I got paid per lawn for a construction company that I had to water. And that was just like, they were building hundreds of houses down the street in Torrance. And it was just like, the more lawns I can water in the morning, that's $25 for that lawn. And, I would just do the math and go, right, I just have to get up earlier and earlier and earlier to do it. And then I'd have to do it in the afternoon, because if I did it in the afternoon, it was another $25. You know what I mean? It was hard stuff, but I just thought what made me happy doing it, because my friends would make fun of me and say things like, "Oh, this is why you don't get picked to join the soccer team or the kickball team when we're at school." I didn't play with them after school in the neighborhood, because I was just happier just generating revenue.
Yeah, because there are more important things.
Yeah, well, it was just generating revenue because, you know what I mean? I was just like, cool, they were able to buy us stuff, because you know what it was like when we were growing up. We would be like, oh, can we do this? Can we go to this camp? Can we buy this? Can we buy that? Very often the answer was no.
Right.
And they did enjoy it, saying the no. But we'd see their frustration because they didn't have one or two childs, the 2.5 kids. Yeah, that wasn't our family. Our family was, the 8, 10, 15 kid family. So if I was asking, best believe somebody else is going to be asking soon, because their class is going to be going on a trip or this and that. And so they'll have to say no so many times that we used to, now that when I reflect on it, I think, yeah, they were really angry about it, but, and it would, you get kind of smacked in the ears because you were not listening. But that's because, I have, like, will you say yes at some point? And so for me, it was just like, if I was able to generate revenue and to give it to them, they were now able to say yes. And it does come down to choices. When I talk to people and they go, why'd you get into business? Why do you do the things you do? What are you after? Even in politics, like, why do you vote the way you do? So it just comes down to choices. Like, I have choices in my life that I have. Are they great choices? Are they good choices? Are they many choices? You know what I mean? And so if you want to improve your choices, you got to make changes. You've got to dive right head in and try to get from point A to point B so that you can improve those choices or make those choices even more palatable. So, I was able to do it for mom and dad very early on. And so, and I think I've just been kind of just moving along. I mean, the security company started because, dad was working security at the Hayward Hotel in downtown LA that everybody worked at.
Yeah. And Uncle Willie and them.
Yep. So they all worked there, and then they decided to contract the security out. And it was just like, son, can you start a security company? I'm like, I'm 18. What? Just turned 18. Exactly what you're talking about. But, they were just like, yeah, just go and do this. So, very early on, it was, Google was just coming out, and, Yahoo was hitting, was at its thing. So, lots of looking and this and just so that they can save their jobs. So that they can continue to take care of us. So I think that was probably the one of the main drivers. But throughout that whole thing, and it's still very frequent today. People, your failure success is a probably a more common topic that everyone is familiar with, but they don't recognize the signs and things. So when I'm out having those chats with people and having, it seems to be the normal conversation of the same things of, where do I start to generate business? What do I do to start my business? What do I do to improve my business? And my first question is usually, what's your business plan look like? And most, yeah, I don't have one. I haven't looked at it since. I think you probably should start with that and probably look at it daily. Because if you're not looking at it daily, if you're not doing things daily to move yourself from point A to point B, whatever that looks like, even if it's just re-looking at it so that you're sure that that's the right plan for your current business, or kind of going, this isn't the business or that I should be in, then you're going to continue to fail successfully. I'm just like, thanks for the consulting fee. Let us.
No, I mean, you mentioned something earlier about fear, and I think we do, as adults, we become more filtered, or the opinions of the world become more heavier to us when they shouldn't be. So how do people keep that curiosity on? How do they keep the curiosity and the fear away when they're trying to pursue the things that they love?
Yeah, so we hear the phrase very often, you are who you hang out with.
Mm-hmm.
So the people that you surround yourself and help inform and help you, either you're going to thrive or you're going to die. You just Yeah, so you have to look at the circle that you're around with, because everything that you do, and ultimately it will come down to you just having to muck through it all, is that you don't do it alone anyway. So who do you have around you? If you have people cheerleading you on, even if that's all they can do for you, then, more than likely from a mental health space, you'll continue to be fortified, and you'll be a bit more resilient than you were the day before. If you have people who sit there and reaffirm your fears, or forecast and project their own maybe experience or lack of experience as informed information towards you, then you end up kind of stop doing things, right? So someone said to me the other day, oh yeah, that's right, you just don't do business with friends or family. And so that's not actually true. You don't do business with friends or family who have not been in business. You know what I mean? Like,
totally.
So people say that quite often. I hear, and I'm one of those guys that like myth busting those kind of phrases. So you have to surround yourself with people that are going to cheerlead you on and going to help push you. And then once you got that right, then you end up starting to look around and going, well, I need to now surround myself with people that can help me drive my business and push me in the right direction. Because again, that comes down to, you understanding very quickly that you can't do it alone. You're not going to be able to do it alone. You're not going to be able to succeed alone. There are very few people that can do it, but those are very, very rare, golden gooses that are out there. So, it just can't happen. So you need to put yourself around people that are going to help push you, and get you to come out of your head. Because quite often we sit with our own thoughts and have all of these conversations in our head that kind of just spirals out of control. And a lot of things will be feeding it. Social media will be feeding it, our own kind of, our own thinking of things, and our lack of want to be seen as weak. And that's probably one of the biggest challenges, that like being vulnerable, and being able to grow in the uncomfortable of being vulnerable is a hard challenge. So in one of the business I'm in at the university that I'm at, I'm taking my staff and myself and going to put them into this workshop. That's a Tibetan sound bowl healing meditation workshop. Yeah, exactly. So and these are educators with PhDs, masters. You know what I mean? And so I'm going to take them and put them in a very uncomfortable space, because I need their heads to be clearer about some things, and I need their minds to be open differently, so that they can be able to receive the challenges that they're going to get from students today. Because the students today are very different from the students from 20, 30 years ago.
Totally.
But I've got professors who are just like, well, why can't they just act normal? Like, what is normal? Like, why can't they be like
every generation, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it changes. I mean, COVID's come and gone, and I told people from the get-go, we want to get back to the way things were before COVID. That's not happening. You can't wind the clock back. This is your new norm. And so we've got this new generation of young people who are more in tune with technology that feeds them. They're more vulnerable in that space. But then we've got ourselves who are a bit more hardened than they are. And so how do I get them to connect well with our students? Because, for lack of a better description, and it's probably not a nice description, but without students, we don't have a business. So I look at them. Yeah, without them, we don't have any revenue. So how do we ensure that the student experience is a valuable experience, and how do I arm my own staff and myself? And so that's putting them through these things that are normally kind of going, oh, this is very airy fairy kind of fluffy stuff. But I have to stop and think and go, well, actually, this is the stuff that's applicable to today.
Right.
And if I don't go through it with my staff, then I won't actually be 100% at least informed or be able to articulate it. So we'll be doing that later on this month. And, and it's for me, it's a bit scary, because I'm just like, oh, I don't want people to, I don't want my staff to kind of reject this. I don't want people to kind of, but I think like, oh, you just got to feel the fear and do it anyway. Part of it is, look, I'm the boss, so we're all going to go through this. But also, before we jumped on, I was just sending everyone an email to say, hey, look, I hope take a look at the moving rivers, have a real good think about it. And so I said, P.S., I'm going through this for the first time with you as well.
You said moving rivers?
Yeah. And so my thing is about going, look, if I'm going to be vulnerable, I just got to I got to share the vulnerability with my staff, and just go, hey, this is where I'm at. And I think that's the other thing about ensuring that you can push yourself through some of the tougher times,
Yeah.
is that you have to be able to say, look, I cannot do this right now.
Yeah.
And so the key is to that statement is right now,
Mm.
because everything in life that we're going to go through, especially in the business context, and all the challenges you come through, can all really be kind of minimized with the words right now. I'm going through a tough time right now. That helps you kind of think, oh, this is not long term.
Right.
This is not long term. This too shall pass. So how do I now close the gap? In this space. And so I tell people all the time, like, you have to be able to say, look, I can't do this. I need help right now. I need help. You may not need help like down the line, but you may not need help with everything you need to do, but I need help right now. And so right now is a great way to take the fears and take the challenges and take, all the obstacles that you're going through and helping to really put them in context, because those things don't last forever. Misery doesn't last forever. The challenges won't last forever. They'll be minimized. And as long as you say right now, look, I need help right now to get X activity completed, to move myself forward, move my business forward, then it actually re-empowers the individual to go, oh, I'm not a failure. I'm a loser. Because quite often we get caught up in our heads of just like being stuck with like, oh man, I didn't even know why I started this project. I haven't gone anywhere.
Stories we tell ourselves, right?
Yes. Yeah. And just say, hey, look, right now, those are the issues. So, that just means that this will come to an end. So how do we get to the end of this particular moment? People are always looking and forecasting towards the outcome that they want.
Yeah.
And sometimes only focused on the outcome,
Yeah.
that they want. And so they forget the journey that you have to go through.
I liked how you mentioned that the way that you identified your network with you recruiting these people to do the work for you, and you identifying that as a kid, crazy, just easy for you to identify that pattern. I like how you mentioned that we can't do things alone, and using those words right now. Like I think you said it earlier. Someone people are very proud, and asking for help, it's like, what? So teaching us how to ask those kind of things in a way that we still, quote unquote, maintain our ego and our pride, but still extend that, I do need this help. Please come along my journey.
Yeah, definitely. And it would definitely be even more challenging for Pacific communities. And then, with our culture at Samoans, is that we have that tug of war of, oi, be humble. Hey, hey, like, you don't get to sit in the big chair. You come sit here on the floor. I still have it now. When my mom walks in and she says to me, wow, why do you have a big office? I'm just like, I want to have a couch so I can lay down in. Like, I can't do it in a small room. You know what I mean? So even then they kind of walk in and, my mom will say, like, I had an exchange with a student, and my mom says to me, oh, you need to be nicer to them. And I'm like, can you not tell me how to do my gig here at the camp? Like, you undermining me right now. You know what I mean? There's still that, because they, rightfully or wrongfully, for them, their whole thing is that we need to keep your feet on the ground. And then we take the business culture that we're in, the current culture that we're in. I don't like saying modern, because I think myself, like, what's modern was not modern before. So, but the culture that we're in, that's business, that we identify as business, says that we need to celebrate success. Says that we have to, if no one else blows your trumpet, then you pull your trumpet out and blow it. Because sometimes people don't know that you are out there doing great things. They don't know that your business, is doing well, and that you're a great person to partner with. Maybe they don't know. And so we see it a lot. And I see it a lot in business awards nights, Met galas and things, where the Pacific stuff, we're all very humble, and everyone's like, oh, and then we see them in like the Chamber of Commerce will hold a big gala. And then the uncomfortableness that comes with that, because it's like, in a secular space, I'm a business guy, I'm John the business guy, and this and that, but should I get an award, I could be worried that other people are watching, so I have to be more humble when I'm up there accepting my award and those things. So from a culture standpoint, it is a challenging one, because how do you celebrate your success as a Samoan without almost going overboard, that people kind of look at you and be like, oi, bye, look at that guy. And so I hear it a lot in our communities here. They go, how do you like how do you just keep trucking along because you just seem to just not care. So it's not that I don't care. So I'm aware, don't mistaken, me not acknowledging those things for not caring. And so I'm aware that we cover a culture of humbleness and things. I said, but we're in a, especially those who are in secular business. I said we're in a secular business that needs to generate revenue, and the way for it to generate revenue is for us to accept the accolades, accept the awards, and accept the recognition. So then you bring the culture part into it by accepting your speech and starting it in Samoan or whatever your culture is.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And informing the room that's what makes you a good business person is all of you, your culture and all of it. That doesn't mean you have to be secular with all of that stuff. But, I do find that tug of war with our Pacific community here in New Zealand is one that they struggle with, because they go, oh, if I do this too much, then I may not be, I might be seen as being parangi. And it's like, well,
I find it that like when those kinds of incidents do occur, when you hear people saying, oh, hey, vaya ga kangaka, or, which means watch that person. And those would be moments to, in my opinion, where we have these projections that because people may not be living a fulfilled life themselves, so they project their own insecurities onto others. And if we are not secure in ourselves, then we could find ourselves questioning, oh, okay, should I be doing this? So I feel like in those particular areas and arenas, it would be advantageous for us to, like you said, in one area we can accept it in doing our speech in Samoan, if that's our culture or whatever culture we have. And then in the other space, we could still rock it the same that we do. We're not going to be able to please both parties, but as long as we're secure in the spaces that we stand in, I think we should be.
Yeah, we look at Dwayne Johnson, probably one of the more well-known Samoan business guys out there.
Right.
And I do find it more interesting because at least here in New Zealand, our culture, the Samoan culture, is so much more vibrant here, almost throughout all of New Zealand, which is a different change from what we have, back home in the States.
Right.
And one of the people we like picking on here is Dwayne for his Samoan, right? And I always find it interesting, and I have a good laugh when he replies back, because as he becomes more comfortable, and I think he's quite a good example of diaspora. Those of us who've lived away from more vibrant Samoan spaces like New Zealand and Samoa, is that for those of us who are from the outside, like Dwayne and you and I, that as we become more comfortable with our culture, we introduce those things, into our regular lives.
Totally.
So in his career context, as he's become more secure in his Samoa, he's added things like, okay, so he's gone to Samoa, he's got a tattoo. Oh, okay, he's learning how to do a siva. All of those things. He's introducing the language. And though the enunciation may not be bang on, those are the things he's gone, I'm actually, as I become more confident in my culture, I introduce those things. And I'm the same now. As I become more confident, I'm wearing EFI Kanga, I'm wearing the island shirts, I go to the Samoan events and this and that. And and as a Makai, be more comfortable with being called to the front, which is, a different conversation itself. But I look at Dwayne and in how he goes about it. And he always has very quick jabs at people who say, oh, look at him trying to be a Samoan business guy, and his Samoan sucks. And then I remember seeing one of his tweets that he said, and it basically translates to, oh my gosh, my bank account is hungry and starving, because someone had made the comment of like, look at this guy, he's starving for Samoan culture. He's just taking what he can to make of it. And it was quite a good quip for him, because he was, because he's basically like, well, you can say what you want to say,
right?
But, what I mean, but your bank account is probably just as hungry as my Samoa then. And I just thought, like, oh, shots fired. You know what I mean? And I just myself like, okay, cuz, yep, yeah. And I look at it and I think him, Roman, and all the other boys again, and again, like us, being diaspora, that it's like, well, how do I be a Samoan business person? And I just tell them, be a business person. All the other things come with you.
Yeah.
I don't leave my Samoanness when I walk into the campus or I go visit other business people. I can't, like, look at this. It's here.
Right. Totally. I love that. I tell people all the time, like, even though we as business people, we have this corporate persona, and then we have our home persona, which could be our culture, and whatever roles that come with that. You cannot separate the two, even though they say, oh, don't bring your problems to work. I'm like, hey, so you only want me to bring a quarter of myself to work?
Yep, 100%. 100%. I've got Samoans, I got Tongans that work for me. I know that, if Lava Lava comes along, a family issue comes along, quite often, it'll be a birthday, it'll be a funeral, it'll be a wedding. Our people culturally, do things very differently. So, for instance, a funeral happens. Well, the traditional space says, oh, 3 days is enough. And that's only the reason why 3 days is enough is because back in the day we didn't embalm bodies. That's how long it took before bodies start smelling. So you'd want to bury the body quickly. So that's made its way into business culture and everyday life. 3 days and that's it. Where Samoan culture, boy, we could be gone for like a month. So when any of my lecturers come and says, oh, there's this funeral, and I said, first of all, why are you whispering? Speak to me. No one else is here listening. I said, tell me what's happening. They're like, there's a funeral. Anyhow it is. My uncle's nephew, well, his wife has passed away. Okay, yeah. Okay, yep. I might. What's happening? What would you, and it's really interesting how they're, even today, these people with PhDs and masters feel very uncomfortable to even have a conversation with me about what is needed culturally. And they say things to me like, well, the funeral's not for another couple of weeks. And then they have the long story why it's for a couple of weeks. And I said, I don't need to hear any of that. What do you need from me?
Right.
My job is to run the business. My job is to balance the books. And then, but also my job is to support you as a person. And that means all of it, culturally, in all of it. So I'll handle the class being taken care of by another substitute. I'll handle all those things. So tell me what you need culturally, because when you come back, I need you here. What do you need? Now, the business, now it's my job to go back and fight the business, because when they go and go, Jesus, did you just approve like 2 weeks of leave? I did.
Yes.
That's my job now, to be very competent and to lobby for the culture, to say, hey, we didn't hire 4/10 of a person, we hired all of them, knowing full well that they were Samoan, knowing full well they're Tongan or whatever it is, and that these are and New Zealand has no excuse, because we're much more embedded with Pacific cultures and other cultures here. Totally. And so I tell them, I was like, you knew this when you hired this individual, that they're much more in tune, and this person, the Makai, and their responsibilities. And then, so if we're worried about numbers, I will balance the numbers. However, this is the decision I made. So I'm lucky that I'm at a place where, where the team says, yeah, cool, we trust your judgment in this space. We just want to hear what the issue is, or we just want to understand your decision making around this. But, my thing is, judge me on the books at the end of the year.
Yeah, no, that is so beautiful, because the this is what is missing, I feel, in corporate culture in America, is really getting in tune with our cultures on a vast scale. Because when we can connect with our culture in such a personal way, can you imagine how much more they can not get from us, but empower us to be more strong in the places that we show up in? That's so beautiful. And I also too wanted to touch, based on you mentioning earlier about you doing the Tibetan sound bath with your team, about being vulnerable, because this particular, in my opinion, from what I've seen, young people and students in this particular generation are seeking truth, and they don't want to participate in things that aren't moving them. And not because their parents are saying it, they want to be moved themselves. And so I think the way that you're doing that with your staff, oh my God, that definitely is going to resonate with this particular generation. And I don't mean to cut us off, cousin, but we have 15 minutes.
Yep.
And before we leave, what I do is I usually ask people 3 questions on personal questions, so people can get to know you a little bit better. But what would be a couple of things that you would leave with the audience, and then I'll find the questions to ask you.
Yeah, sure. So, so a few things. So right now is a great way to end sentences, especially challenging sentences, whether you're in business or whether you're going through things personally. Right now is a good way to end sentences. So think about that when you're coming through some challenges, obstacles. Second thing is, if you're not doing something every day to move yourself or your business forward, then you're failing pretty successfully there. So if you're looking at like, how come my business isn't moving forward? How come I'm not moving forward? Well, what have you done for yourself to move yourself a bit forward? So simple things like, I want to lose weight, but you're not gone to the gym. Well, don't go to the gym, then go for a walk or pick up something heavy or whatever. If you're not doing something every day to inch yourself forward, then there's no progress. Then of course you're going to fail successfully in those areas. And then the only other thing that I would say is that you do have to surround yourself with people that are going to cheerlead you. You know what I mean? And also they also have to be the same people that you can go to say, I'm not doing well. You know, that things are not working out well. Because it's one thing to have people to cheerlead you through, you know, and the house is on fire. You're like, don't worry, it'll be fine. Like, no, that's not what you need. People don't need cheerleaders for everything in their life. What you need from when you're thinking about surrounding yourself, you know, that you are who you hang out with, they should be the same people that you should be able to be like, I've got a problem, you know, or things are just not going well. They should recognize the moments of like cheerleading and moments to go, hey man, I've just noticed a few things. And I'm lucky I've got a few of those people around me that kind of going, come on, let's go for a beer. I'm like, what's up? Oh, you just look like you're off. So let's just go get a beer. You know, let's just go get some fish and chips or whatever it is. And so those are the three things I'd leave with your audience.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So I'm going to need you to give me 3 numbers, 1 through 95, and I'll ask you that question.
Okay, let's go 7.
7. And that question is, are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I'm an extrovert for sure.
Okay.
Right. I would love to be an introvert, you know, and I would love to be an introvert where you just kind of like, but yeah, I'm definitely an extrovert.
All right. Your next one. 2 more, cousin.
11.
11. So that question is, what's your biggest pet peeve?
My biggest pet peeve is, Jesus, let's see. I'm just thinking, I'm not too sure. I don't really kind of have any biggest pet peeve, but I listen to a lot of phrases, you know, those common phrases that people like to say, like, oh, it is what it is.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear those things and I just kind of cringe a bit. I'm like, it is what it is. Is it? Is it really? You know, so I probably think that's probably the thing that catches my ear the most, that I'm just like, oh gosh, did you really say that? It's just when people quote things like that and I'm like, oh.
Repeating without the intention of really thinking about what they're saying. Yeah. One more, cuz.
Let's go with 88.
88. Okay, so that one says, can you share your top 3 book recommendations for the audience?
Okay, so Rich Dad Poor Dad's always a great read, you know, Robert Kiyosaki, because that's about a mindset, right? It's very that's probably one of the biggest things is the mindset. If that's not gone, if that's not in tune correctly, then you're definitely going to fail pretty successfully. But it also helps you understand where your gaps are. So that way you kind of go, I need to seek more knowledge. So definitely the Rich Dad Poor Dad. I can't remember the name of the author, but Selling the Wheel. It's a really small book. It's probably like 40 some pages long, if that. And it's is literally about selling the wheel. And it's written for about the audience of a 13-year-old. And it's purposely written that way because it's really basic stuff. But Selling the Wheel just gives you some real good not only reminders for those who are in the sales sector, but also more importantly, just some really basic foundations on if you're going to be providing a service or you're going to be providing a product, and how do you advocate for that, you know, and how do you get that through? And let's see, I think the last book I read, that I really, I don't know why I keep reading it, but I quite enjoyed the thrill of the book. But I mean, it's Dan Brown's, Da Vinci Code.
Yeah, the Da Vinci Code.
It's just because of the character itself, right? The main character's whole job is to think problems through, and all of the possibilities and to really think those through. And so though that people kind of go, well, that's not really a business book. You're correct. It's not a business book. It's an entertaining book about a professor who's a specialist in ancient, iconography and linguistics. And he has to solve a problem. And that's basically a guy out. He's not a detective, but he's essentially now thrown into this mystery of how to solve this murder mystery. And so that's where we, as people who are going into business, many of us are not even business people. We've come out of so many different things, landed in the business space, and it's very similar to the character. He's a lecturer, professor, and now he's thrown into, I have to be a detective to solve this mystery. And so he has to take transferable skills. So we've got things that we can transfer into business. Right. And then he's had to learn a bunch of other things and figure out how to come over those obstacles, and, through the car chases and the, helicopters and the murder scenes and all the other stuff. And, but he does work through those. So I think the skills that you get out of how the main character throughout the Da Vinci Code walks through the challenges that are there, and not seeing things, being blindsided by his good mate, it's just kind of like, oh, because we do that in business quite often. Like something happens, and there's something blindsides us, and going, oh crap, how did I not see that coming? And I'm just like, yeah. And we have that here with the economic pressures that are going on and everything else going on in New Zealand, where I'm singing off of one particular song sheet. All the financial experts are talking something completely different. People look at me a bit weird, like, bro, do you even know what you're talking about? And then 2 weeks later, those same financial experts are now singing out of the song sheet that I'm singing out. And I'm like, yeah, what? You know what I mean? And it's just kind of like, and then it's really interesting that those financial experts are like, how come we didn't see that coming? I'm like, yeah, very good question. How did you not see it coming? Because I saw it coming. And so it's really kind of like, you don't necessarily have to be an expert. You don't have to have experience. You don't have to do all of those things that we tell ourselves that, what do you know about running a business? What do you know about that? Like, nothing. That's a great place to start. Right. How do I move forward? And navigate the rapids, and just navigate that whole space. It comes down to who's around me then, and the challenges that you come around will only be there right now, and just, you know what I mean? It's those kind of things. It's so, you take those things into stride and kind of go, right, this is how I move forward with those. Those are really cool questions.
Yeah, I think like what you said earlier, you said we can't do it alone. Like, use the network that you have around you, right? Ask for help, because people do want to teach you. They do want to help. They're just waiting for you to ask the question.
Yep. Look, Warren Buffett's still working, right? And when he speaks, and he very rarely does speak at a paid forum, you know what I mean? He commands hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not because people want to be seen and taking a photo with Warren Buffett. We're just like, please just pour your knowledge into my head. Mm-hmm. And so if we have that attitude around Warren Buffett or any of the other business leaders that we have in our mind, like, oh my God, if I could just spend an hour with Mark Zuckerberg, I always ask people, what do you think you want to learn from him? And ideally, you're probably not going to get in front of Mark Zuckerberg and spend an hour. So who do you know that would know someone that would be just as knowledgeable and probably be free, or would cost less, or you can trade, or whatever those things are. So quite often when we look at the business icons that are out there, and I have it too, where people come and see me and I said, yeah, sure, here's my number, and let's go and have lunch. And they're like, oh, really? How much does that cost? I just have a laugh, and I'm like, I didn't say I'd bill you. I just said, let's go for lunch and let's have a chat about your business. And I have found more joy in passing knowledge on, and I've been mentoring, young business people for years now. And I just love seeing them online, whether they're on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or whatever their platforms are, just thriving. And I just have I just smile, and then I get the invites that, hey, come and we want to acknowledge you. And I think if you don't have to, because now you get to be part of my network, that when someone calls and asks me, I'm 19 years old, I want to start this business, and I'm brown and beautiful and bold and this and that, and I have no experience. How do I start?
Paying it forward.
Yeah, I just said, talk to this person, because they're right down the road from you, and tell them I sent you. And that's probably one of the most important parts of, and I guess probably one of the most important, valuable tools I have is that credibility. Is that I've not only helped this person, however it is, it's empowered them, that when I recommend someone or I refer someone, that they go, who sent you? Oh, yes, we, because we're all very busy, right? Mm-hmm. People are always busy, and I do it, quite often. So, where people want to talk to me and things, but, when someone says, oh, a friend, it's, recommended that I connect with you, and just immediately at the top of my list, right? Immediate top of the list, because I'm thinking, right, this person that's in my network has thought it, and graciously has thought that I am worth being referred to. So I've got to return the respect by taking this as a priority conversation. Nice. And helping them as best as possible. And then I loop it around and go, hey, I met with so-and-so. Yet we didn't find anything that I can help them with, but we found good synergies around these particular areas, and I referred them to so-and-so. So that's why it's key to find people to surround yourself with that not only cheerlead you, but those who are able to identify, they have the skill set to go, you're not doing well. How do I help you?
Right.
And you'd be surprised, because one of my biggest cheerleaders and friends to turn to, retired SWAT team commander from New Jersey. He used to be a photographer, a really well-off photographer, and now he sells candy floss here in cotton candy here in New Zealand, which is quite a shift. And it's really weird. And I was talking to him about a golf course in Samoa that I wanted to get going, and this and that is the champion golf course, this and that. And he surprisingly turned to me and he says, "You would not guess what I did before I was a cop." And I'm just looking at this huge guy, and I'm like, were you a personal trainer? Ran through a bunch of guesses, right? And I'm like, big New Jersey Italian guy, just loud, and like, bouncer. Did you work for the mob? Like, I just like, what did you do? He goes, "Oh, I was a PGA pro."
Shut the front door.
He goes, "Yep." He goes, "Yeah, I was a PGA pro." So on top of that, I trained the not only PGA pros, but those who were coming through the ladder through the rankings to improve their rankings. And I'm like, very cool. Would have never guessed it.
Oh my God.
I'm just like, but yeah, anyhow, but yeah.
No, thank you for that. It's funny how the universe aligns us to the things that, not that we need, but what we desire and we make known. So before you leave, please let the people know where they can find you so they can connect, whatever your social media platforms are.
Yeah, sure. So you can find me on LinkedIn on John Loau. Just find me on LinkedIn there. You can also find me on Facebook. It says John Loau Doing Stuff, because I literally like just doing random stuff. So so just find me in those two places on LinkedIn, or you can contact me on by email, contact@johnloau.com, and just pop me an email. So I'm always always happy to take calls and connect with people and grow the network and just meet new randoms.
All right, cuz thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. We got to do another conversation.
Yeah, sure, for sure.
All right, everybody. Hope you have a great weekend.
Thanks, everyone. See ya. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye. Hey, cuz, thank you.